Renting a three-bedroom house in Las Vegas runs about $2,100 a month. Buying a median home costs about $2,870 a month. So if you're asking whether to buy or rent in Las Vegas in 2026, renting does win today, and I'm going to show you the exact math where that flips. By the end of this, you'll know the break-even math line by line, and you'll know the one number that actually describes whether you should buy a house in Las Vegas. It isn't the interest rate. Some of you are going to watch this and figure out you shouldn't buy yet, and I'd rather you hear it from me now than find out at the closing table. If you're PCSing into Nellis or Creech, stay to the end because your orders move the math more than the rate does. So what does it actually cost to rent in Las Vegas today? We've got two different numbers and the gap between them matters. Three-bedroom apartments across the valley average right around $1,900 a month. Rent Cafe has Las Vegas at $1,906 and North Las Vegas about $1,870. A three-bedroom house is a different animal. Figure about $2,100 and up in the Las Vegas. It's going to be more in Henderson, of course. And if you're moving a family here, price the house, not the apartment. The first thing renting buys you is flexibility. It's more than most people will admit. If you're here for under 2 years, renting is almost always the right call. You can't buy and sell a house in 18 months and come out ahead. Except for during COVID, it actually worked during that time. But remember, that was a different era because now the math doesn't even allow it. It can also buy you a little bit of time to learn the valley. A lot of you are buying sight unseen from another state or from overseas, your OCONUS assignments. Renting for a year, that can be reconnaissance. You find out what a 15-mile commute really costs you at 7 in the morning and whether you can live with a west-facing backyard in July in Las Vegas. That intel is cheap at a year of rent and expensive if you get it wrong. Renting also means you don't pay for the air conditioner. In this valley, that matters. A condenser going out in July, that's the landlord's problem. You're also clear of HOA dues. And if there's a SID or lid assessment, none of that shows up in your name. Now the best part, and this is where I have to correct somebody you've probably heard. People will tell you rents only go up. In this market over the last 3 years, they haven't. According to apartments.com, they did report in April that Las Vegas was one of only 5 major markets in the country where rents fell month over month while the national number rose. Zoomper showed most of the valley down year over year. Zillow found about half of all local listings offering concessions. The reason is supply. The wave of apartment construction that got financed during the pandemic is still filling up. So right now, the rent trend sits in the renter's column, not against it. I'm not going to tell you otherwise just because I sell houses. What renting actually costs you is different. You build nothing. Every payment buys you 30 more days with zero equity and no interest deduction. When your lease comes up, your rent resets to whatever the market is that year. You don't control that number, somebody else does. Which brings up the other side of the ledger. Is it cheaper to rent or buy in Las Vegas? On a monthly basis, today, renting is cheaper. Let me price the buy side out loud so you can see how much. The Las Vegas Realtors reported the median price of an existing single-family home in Southern Nevada at $490,000 in June. That's a record high, unchanged from May and up 1% from a year ago. Freddie Mac had the 30-year fixed average at 6.58% as of July 23rd. That was 6.55% the week before and 6.74% a year ago. Put 20% down on that median home and you're financing $392,000 at 6.58% on the conventional loan. 30-year fixed principal and interest is about $2,498 a month. Clark County property taxes on a primary residence runs through 0.5% to 0.7% of market value. So I'm going to use 0.6 for this example. which is $245 a month. Insurance in Las Vegas averages around $1,500 a year, and that's on a typical single family house, so another $125 for you to add in. Add those, and you're at about $2,870 a month before any HOA dues. If your community has them, add them. I've seen Valley HOAs run from $50 a month to several hundred. Now, run it in a way a lot of you actually run it. A VA loan, nothing down, you're financing that entire $490,000. So principal and interest jumps up to $3,120, and now you're near $3,490 with taxes and insurance. But you don't have any mortgage insurance, which is the real advantage. And there's a funding fee that usually gets financed into the loan unless you're exempt. I'll get another video in for you guys, get a little bit deeper into VA loans and maybe some of the other loan types. Compare that $3,490 to your BAH for those of you who are still on active duty with dependents before you fall in love with the floor plan, because the gap between those two numbers, that comes out of your paycheck every month. Hold that number, because I'm going to show you what 5 years of paying actually buys you, and it's less than you'd guess. What buying gets you first is a fixed number. That $2,498 in principal and interest doesn't reset when the lease is up. With the median price at a record, locking your housing costs has real value. The second thing is Nevada tax structure. And this is what the relocators from California and Washington State, not DC, underestimate. Nevada charges no state income tax. Property taxes run about 0.5% to 0.7% like we just discussed of the market value, and there's a 3% annual cap on how much the tax bill on your primary residence can go up. You have to file the principal residence claim to get that cap. Title usually handles that at closing. Usually. Make sure you check it for yourself. One warning on that cap: if you're military, buy here, then PCS, and turn that house into a rental, you lose your 3% and move into the 8% cap. Now think about it. Tell your assessor when the use changes. That's the good news. The next number is the one that talks people out of buying, and it's the one nobody puts in their spreadsheet. It's the transaction cost. Buying in Nevada runs roughly 2 to 3% of the price and closing costs. Selling runs more, generally 6 to 8% once you account for the commissions and the Nevada transfer tax. I'm using 2.5% in and 7% out for this example, which is a round trip of about $46,000 on a $490,000 home. That is the entire reason for the 3 to 5 year hold rules and why it exists. While we're on costs, check for the SID or LID assessments before you write an offer. A lot of the newer parts of the valley carry them, and they're attached to the parcel, not to you, and they add real money to your monthly obligation that no online calculator seems to show you. Then there's the rate. I'm not going to predict where rates go because nobody knows, and anybody who tells you this is selling a little something. If rates fall later, you can look at refinancing. If they rise, you're glad you locked. But the payment you carry on that current 6.58%, not the payment you hope to have in 2 years. So how long do you have to stay in a Las Vegas home before buying beats renting? Longer than the 3 years you've probably been told if you refuse to assume the market bails you out. Here's the math on a median home. Go ahead and grab a pen. You're renting a 3-bedroom home for $2,100. You're buying at $490 with 20% down for those of you who have that. And your all-in payment is about $2,870. Owning costs you about $770 a month more in cash. Over a year, that's $9,200 out of your pocket. Now, credit yourself for what the bank isn't keeping. In your first 12 months, about $4,315 of the payment goes to principal. That's roughly $360 a month coming back to you as equity. Subtract that from the $770, and your true cost gap is about $410 a month. Call it $4,900 for the year. 5 years in, you've paid the loan down by about $24,700. That is real money. But your round trip through the purchase and the sale was $46,000. Principal alone hasn't covered it, not in 5 years. That's the math with zero appreciation, and I'm holding at zero on purpose right now because I want forecast prices for you. So 24,700 is your floor, not your ceiling. Every point of appreciation goes on top of that. So does every year you stay past 5 years. One more thing in the renter's column to keep this fair. That $98,000 down payment doesn't sit in a drawer if you rent. It can be invested somewhere else. And whatever it would have earned is a genuine cost of buying. Any honest comparison says that out loud. The math works when you extend the timeline. It fails when you shorten it. The one correction on my example, a $2,100 rental is not the same as a $490,000 home. Rent something comparable to what you would buy and your rent climb, closing that $770 gap in a real big hurry. This calculation is close to worthless in general and powerful when you run it on your actual number. What gets me to that number, I promise you at the top, isn't the rate. It's the number of months you're going to live in the house. Everything else is a rounding error next to that. So should you buy or rent? Here's the framework I use with clients. Buying if you're staying for 3 or more years, your income is stable, and you know the sub-market you want. If you're PCSing in on 4-year orders and you plan to serve them out here, buying pencils at these numbers. 3 years is the minimum, though it's not in the comfort zone. If you can see 5, you're in a much better shape. Rent if you'll be here under 2 years. Rent if your orders could change, if you're waiting on an assignment, or if your deployment is going to decide it for you. Rent if you haven't picked a sub-market, because Las Vegas, Henderson, North of Las Vegas, believe it or not, for some, especially those in Creech, Pahrump, have different price points, and it's very different commutes. If you're reporting to Creech, you're on the 95 corridor. That shapes the sub-market long before it shapes whether you buy. Buying in the wrong part of the valley costs you more than renting a year while you learn it. And rent if the payment scares you. A payment you can barely carry at 6.58%, it's not a good investment. I flew KC-135s and Reapers before I did this, and I've helped over 100 families buy and sell in this valley. The ones who did well aren't the ones who timed the market. They're the ones who were honest with themselves about how long they'd stay. So do this. Send me your numbers, your target price, and what you're paying to rent right now, your down payment, and how long you realistically expect to be here. If you're Air Force or one of the other branches who are actually stationed here at Nellis and Creech, send your BAH with dependents and your orders length, and I'll run an analysis with you on your actual numbers, and we'll get back to you. If your answer is rent, I'll tell you to rent. I'll tell you why. It costs you nothing and it's cheaper than guessing. The link's below and my number is in the description along with that pinned comment. And see, here's the thing. About half my audience watches on TV, so I know you can't click below. So right now, you can use your phone and click this QR code and you'll get my information. You can contact me, and most importantly, all the resources that I have will go straight to you. So you'll have the buyer guides and market guides and everything else. And I promise I'm not gonna hound the heck out of you. So I don't bite that hard. To my military brothers and sisters, you know the drill, what I'm gonna say next. Alpha Mike Foxtrot. To the rest of my audience, which believe it or not is the majority, you seem to wanna watch this old retired military officer talk at you about housing in Las Vegas. You know I love you. We're gonna keep them lights on for you. And right now, the YouTubes, that big algorithm thing, they're saying the video that is popping up right now is the one that you need to see next. And you know what? I would love to meet you over in that video and we can continue our discussion. So go ahead and click that next video. Help me build up this channel and teach more people about moving and living in Las Vegas.